Here we go. Question 1. Quick check. Shield Advanced Protection requires enhanced DDoS protection for their public-facing application load balancer that fronts critical web applications. They need access to 24/7 DDoS response support and cost protection against DDoS-related usage spikes. Which AWS service should they subscribe to? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. Shield Advanced is the only tier with 24/7 DRT access. AWS Shield Standard provides baseline protection against common DDoS attacks for all AWS customers at no additional charge. AWS Shield Advanced offers significantly enhanced protection for internet-facing applications running on resources like application load balancers, CloudFront distributions, Route 53, and Global Accelerator. And cost protection against usage spikes on protected resources caused by DDoS attacks. Hey friends, welcome to the next session. 10 questions, topic is AWS Shield and Inspector, Route 53 failover routing, and S3 cost optimization. Each question gets read out, then a 6-second countdown before the reveal. Let's roll. Count every one you get right, your score matters at the end. Here we go. Let's open question 2. Quick check. AppSec Vulnerabilities ScanCo experienced a breach affecting several on-premises applications due to unpatched vulnerabilities. They are migrating these applications to EC2 instances and want a solution to actively scan for vulnerabilities on these instances, generating detailed reports. Which AWS service will meet these requirements? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. Patch Manager patches? Inspector is what scans for CVEs. Amazon Inspector is an automated security assessment service that helps improve the security and compliance of applications deployed on AWS. It automatically assesses EC2 instances for vulnerabilities, e.g. common vulnerabilities and exposures, CVEs, and deviations from security best practices. Inspector provides detailed reports of its findings, enabling the company to identify and remediate security issues proactively. Next up, question 3. Anchor on the exact workload. Mobile Comms Inc. is developing a marketing service targeting mobile app users. They need to send SMS confirmation messages, and users must be able to reply. Responses must be stored for a year for analysis. What should a solutions architect do? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Pinpoint owns two-way SMS. Firehose routes replies to S3. Amazon Pinpoint is designed for customer engagement, including sending SMS messages and managing two-way SMS conversations. Pinpoint journeys allow for automated message sequences. By configuring Pinpoint to stream events to Kinesis Data Firehose, you can capture all interaction data, including SMS replies, and archive it to Amazon S3 for long-term storage, 1 year, and subsequent analysis. Next up, let's handle question 4. SSL Offload Corp hosts a dynamic web application on 2 EC2 instances, each managing its own SSL certificate for SSL termination. A recent surge in traffic has led to SSL encryption-decryption processes consuming maximum web server compute capacity. How can a solutions architect enhance the application's performance by offloading SSL processing? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. ALB handles the handshake so EC2 CPU stays fully free. Application load balancers, ALBs, are capable of terminating SSL TLS connections. By importing your SSL certificate into AWS Certificate Manager, ACM, and then configuring an HTTPS listener on the ALB to use this certificate, the ALB takes over the SSL encryption and decryption tasks. This offloads the computationally intensive SSL processing from your backend EC2 instances, freeing your CPU resources for handling application logic, and thus improving overall application performance. Let us keep moving. For question 5, the qualifier matters. Route 53 health check failover hosts a critical web application using an application load balancer in EC1 as its primary endpoint. They have an identical standby deployment in SQS2 for disaster recovery. They need to configure Amazon Route 53 to automatically fail over to the US West 2 ALB if the primary ALB in EC1 becomes unhealthy. Which Route 53 routing policy and configuration is best for this? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. The word failover maps to exactly one Route 53 policy. Amazon Route 53 failover routing policy allows you to configure active-passive failover. You designate one record, e.g. for the primary ALB in EC1, as primary and another, e.g. for the standby ALB in SQS2, as secondary. Route 53 health checks are associated with the primary endpoint. If the health check determines the primary endpoint is unhealthy, Route 53 automatically stops routing traffic to it and starts routing traffic to the secondary endpoint. This provides automated failover for disaster recovery. Through 5 questions, security services each own one threat layer, ALB offloads SSL, and Route 53 policy names map exactly to their scenario. Now, question 6. Separate fact from assumption. Secure File Transfer Corp hosts an application on EC2 instances that processes customer data files retrieved from S3. These EC2 instances are currently in public subnets and access S3 via the internet, although they don't require any other external network connectivity. A new compliance standard mandates that all network traffic for these S3 file transfers must use a private route and avoid the internet. What modification to the network architecture is necessary? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. Interface endpoint is the trap. S3 uses the gateway type. Moving the EC2 instances into private subnets enhances their security posture. A gateway VPC endpoint for Amazon S3 enables instances within private subnets to access S3 services without their traffic traversing the internet or needing to pass through a NAT gateway. By updating the route table of the private subnets to direct S3 bound traffic to this gateway endpoint, all S3 communication from these instances is kept within the AWS private network. Time for another one. Question 7. Picture the scenario first. Central Backup Strategy needs to implement a backup plan for its Amazon EC2 data and multiple Amazon S3 buckets. Due to strict regulatory requirements, the company must retain all backup files for a specific, unalterable time period. During this retention period, the files must not be modified or deleted by any user or process. Which AWS backup solution will meet these stringent immutability and retention requirements? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Only compliance mode Vault Lock blocks even the root account. AWS Backup provides a centralized service for managing backups across various AWS resources, including EC2 instances and S3 buckets. A key feature for meeting immutability requirements is AWS Backup Vault Lock. When a Vault Lock is applied in compliance mode, it enforces a write once, read many WORM state for the backup stored in that vault. This means that once a backup is locked, it cannot be deleted or modified by any user, including the root user, until its retention period expires. This directly addresses the regulatory need for unalterable backup files for a specific duration. Let's slow down here. This question is really about what immunity actually means in AWS. Imagine your company gets audited. The auditor asks, can you prove nobody deleted these backups? Not even your IT admin. IAM policies fail that test. An admin can just update the policy and wipe the files. That's the trap with options A and B. They look strict, but they can be changed. AWS Backup Vault Lock in compliance mode is different. It enforces warm, write once, read many at the service level. Once locked, nobody can delete those backups before the retention period expires. Not your root user, not AWS support. MFA delete sounds strong, but it only covers S3 and can be disabled. For EC2 and S3 together, with an auditor-proof guarantee, Vault Lock compliance mode is the only right answer. Time for another one. Question 8. The condition is doing work. MySQL Migration Inc. wants to move its on-premises MySQL database to AWS. The company recently experienced a significant database outage that severely impacted its business operations. To prevent future occurrences, the migrated database solution on AWS must minimize data loss and ensure that every transaction is durably stored on at least 2 separate nodes for reliability. Which AWS database solution best meets these stringent requirements? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. 2 separate nodes and synchronous point straight to multi-AZ. Amazon RDS for MySQL with multi-AZ functionality enabled is designed to provide high availability and data durability. In a multi-AZ deployment, Amazon RDS automatically provisions and maintains a synchronous standby replica of your database in a different availability zone. Data is synchronously replicated from the primary DB instance to the standby replica. In the event of an infrastructure failure affecting the primary instance, RDS automatically fails over to the standby replica. This synchronous replication ensures that every committed transaction is stored on at least 2 nodes, primary and standby, minimizing data loss, typically achieving a recovery point objective of near 0 and downtime. Ready, question 9. Eliminate before you select. Compute Cost Optimizer needs to find the most cost-effective way to run an application on AWS that utilizes EC2 instances, AWS Fargate, and AWS Lambda. The EC2 instances, used for data ingestion, have sporadic and unpredictable usage patterns and can tolerate interruptions. The Fargate front-end and Lambda API layer components have predictable usage over the next year. Which 2 purchasing options will provide the most cost-effective solution for hosting this application? Choose 2. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answers are option A and option C. Treat each compute layer independently, then match its purchase type. A. EC2 spot instances are ideal for workloads like data ingestion that are sporadic, can tolerate interruptions, and are not time critical, as they offer significant cost savings, up to 90% off on-demand prices. C. A compute savings plan offers discounts on EC2, Fargate, and Lambda usage in exchange for a commitment to a consistent amount of compute usage, measured in tire dollars on a 1-year or 3-year term. Since the Fargate and Lambda usage is predictable, a 1-year compute savings plan would be a cost-effective choice for these components, providing flexibility across instance families, sizes, and regions within the compute services covered. This one has a sneaky trap in option E. Let's map out exactly which plan covers what. Imagine splitting a compute bill 3 ways. Your data ingestion job shows up randomly and can handle being bumped. That's the spot instance sweet spot, up to 90% cheaper than on demand. Your Fargate front end and Lambda API are different, predictable, same load every month. A compute savings plan locks in a $1 per hour commitment and covers all three services. Here's the trap. An EC2 Instant Savings Plan only covers EC2. It won't touch Fargate or Lambda at all. Since this app uses both, you need the broader plan. The question rewards knowing which savings plan crosses service boundaries. Ready? Question 10. Map the qualifier to the answer. S3 Object Lifecycle Costing is designing an application that will allow business users to upload various types of objects to Amazon S3. The solutions architect must devise a storage strategy that maximizes object durability. These objects must also be readily available for access at any time and for any length of time after upload. It has been observed that users will access these objects frequently within the first 30 days after they are uploaded. But after this initial period, users are much less likely to access objects that are older than 30 days. Which S3 storage solution meets these requirements for durability, availability, and access patterns most cost-effectively? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. Intelligent tiering adds a per-object fee for a pattern you already know. Storing objects initially in Amazon S3 Standard ensures high durability, 11 nines, and low latency access, suitable for the first 30 days of frequent access. After this period, since access becomes much less frequent but still requires immediate availability, transitioning the objects to S3 Standard and Frequent Access, S3 Standard IA using an S3 lifecycle rule is a cost-effective strategy. S3 Standard IA offers lower storage costs than S3 Standard, but still provides the same high durability and low latency retrieval, making it ideal for data that is accessed less often, but needs to be readily available when requested. This approach balances performance, durability, and cost based on the described access patterns. Let's trace exactly what happens to an object after upload. This one is all about timing. Imagine a photo sharing app. Users obsess over new uploads for the first month. On day 1, objects land in S3 Standard, fast, durable, and yes, pricey. S3 Standard handles all reads at full speed for 30 days. At day 30, a lifecycle rule fires automatically. It moves each object to S3 Standard IA, the infrequent access class. Cost drops to roughly half. Durability stays at 11 nines. Objects still return in milliseconds. Glacier Deep Archive would fail here. It takes hours to restore. One zone IA would fail too. One data center outage and your files are gone. The lifecycle rule hits all three: durability, availability, and cost. That's the answer. 3 takeaways from this session. First, compute savings plans cover Fargate and Lambda. EC2 instant savings plans cover only EC2 within one instance family. Second, AWS Backup Vault Lock in compliance mode blocks deletion by everyone, including root, once the grace period expires. Third, for predictable access patterns, a lifecycle rule to standard IA beats intelligent tiering, no per-object monitoring fee. Every wrong answer today came from one specific service confusion: Shield versus WAF, gateway versus interface endpoint, intelligent tiering for a pattern you already know. Eliminate those gaps and this category becomes automatic. Before the next set, a quick favor. Subscribing helps these reach more students prepping for the same exam, so please do. Tell me your score in the comments and where you struggled. If you'd like a certification covered that I haven't built, suggest it below. And honest notes on the pacing or the look are always welcome.